The Northman is Robert Eggers' third film following up The Witch and The Lighthouse, both of which were probably two of my favorite films of 2019, so obviously I had massive expectations from this one, and boy does it deliver. This film is incredible on so many levels, but also kinda simplistic and one note in a couple others. I've got lots of thoughts, so let's get straight into them.
I cannot escape my fate.
Okay, real quick, something you should know about me is that I do everything I can to not look at movie trailers. So the only footage I saw before going in was this one trailer that AMC showed me before some other movie. And based off of that, I went in expecting what I think a lot of you guys were, this gritty, brutal Viking epic about this berserker wreaking havoc. And I sat there thoroughly entertained and frankly insanely hyped throughout the first 30 or so minutes, where the film was pretty much exactly this. But it was after the first act where the film became this slow burn drama and almost this character study where it actually started to consistently blow me away. This is, for all intents and purposes, a simple story of revenge, but Eggers elevates the shit out of it. Hamlet doesn't just kill his father's murderer the first chance he gets. He spends a lot of time carefully sabotaging his estate, building fear in him for this unknown entity that's out to get everything that's near and dear to him. His escapades growing more and more extensive, terrorizing his chieftains and his people. This is the real meat of this story. The band of Vikings going around pillaging settlements is essentially just set up, and Eggers isn't really interested in exploring that. These epic, gory sword fights that the trailer promised do come, but they come late and don't really last that long either. A lot of people might be put off by that, but I genuinely think that getting us invested in both Hamlet's rage and this immense tension that's building up slowly on this estate actually exponentially enhances the impact of the gorefest scenes when they do come. We all know Eggers loves to play with mythology in his films, and there's a lot of it here, but it doesn't quite all work for me. The mermaids in The Lighthouse, for example, were blended in with a grounded narrative impeccably in my opinion, but the Norse mythology here is a little bit too on the nose, and it takes up center stage way too often, especially in the last third of the film. Keeping the mythological interventions brief and sort of in the background, like his previous films, would have actually made Hamlet more vulnerable and the audience more invested in his mission. I've also been hearing a lot of people complain about the film's pace, and I had a few issues with it myself, but my thoughts are totally south of what seems to be the general consensus. See, I actually thought that the film moved a little bit too fast in a couple areas, especially Hamlet's love story with Anna Taylor-Joy's character, Olga. How these two go from being sort of unlikely allies, using each other to make things better for themselves in a terrible situation, to lovers is never really explored in enough detail. And as a result, I didn't really care about the romance. And one of the film's big moments involving these two towards the end didn't really have the impact that I think Eggers wanted it to. You'll know what scene I'm talking about if you've seen the film. It doesn't really seem like Eggers cares about catering to this perceived preference of the general audience anyway, so making the film a little bit longer and spending more time on these characters and their relationship would have really made me more emotionally invested, the lack of which is honestly pretty much my only problem with the film. But to circle around to what does work, the performances. Alexander Skarsgård is incredible. He pulls off the brutal combat, the roars, the growls with incredible finesse, and boy is he hella jacked in this. But where he really shined for me were the more serene moments. There's this one scene where This brute who can rip a man's head straight off has to be silent, submissive, and just absorb all the fury so he can unleash it at the right time, and he blew me away in that. Nicole Kidman, who I actually thought was being really underutilized throughout the first two-thirds of the film, is also outstanding once her character really starts to come into the action in the last third. Without giving anything away in case you've never read Hamlet, her performance as Hamlet's perception of his mother starts to develop and change is really something to look out for. Anna Taylor-Joy is also impeccable as always. Again, I wish we got to know her more, but she knocked it out of the park with what she had to work with. Claes Bang is also great as Fjolnir, but his character isn't quite as nuanced as Skarsgård's or Kidman's, and he's just this angry guy throughout most of the film. I think this uncle character is actually much better explored in other Hamlet adaptations. Oh, and of course, a very special shout out to William Dafoe in a cameo. Eggers has made him 10 times more crazy than even in The Lighthouse, and I absolutely loved it. Now, something you've probably heard from pretty much every reviewer out there, this film is an undisputed technical masterpiece. The cinematography, the costumes, the stunt choreography, it's all jaw-droppingly perfect. The set design in the opening scene is so incredible. It immediately just reminded me of the countless hours I spent playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, just living out my own little Viking fantasy. But what stood out for me beyond everything was the sound design. The Dolby Atmos mix is absolutely incredible. Now, it's not Godzilla vs. Kong room-shattering sound, but like most other things in the film, it's the little things. The quiet hustling in the trees around a campfire, a soldier's death slowly creeping up in the fog, the rats and the servants' quarters, and countless other tiny little touches that enhance the atmosphere astronomically. Jimmy Boyle's sound design team has honestly made some of the best use of Atmos positional audio I've heard in years. Even if the slow burn film doesn't seem appealing to you, you need to see this on the biggest screen you can possibly find, because I promise you, just the audio visual experience you're gonna have is gonna be worth every penny. So yes, the film isn't really that adrenaline pumping, epic Viking action film that at least that one trailer I saw promised, and I know many people are dissuaded from the film by that fact. But if you can clear your head of expectations and just let the film slowly draw you into its world and its characters, you're in for an absolute treat, my friend. So, those were my thoughts on The Northman. If you liked what you saw, please hit that like button and also consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, very much appreciated, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.